रखना जन्नत की कुंजी उन्हीं के हाथों में है। ये आप लोग जान के चलें, अपने बुजुर्गों का बहुत एहतराम करेंगे आप। तो ये दोनों भाई अपनी माँ का बहुत आदर करते हैं, बहुत आदर करते हैं, इसलिए मैं बहुत प्रसन्न रहता हूँ। और वो बैठी हैं, उनका आशीर्वाद इनको प्राप्त है, हम सब लोगों का आशीर्वाद प्राप्त है। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मुझे लग रहा है कि मैं कुछ ज़्यादा ही समय ले रहा हूँ, मुझे नहीं लेना चाहिए था। आप सब लोगों को मेरी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। हमारा रिपब्लिक डे भी आ रहा है, उसकी भी शुभकामनाएं, और जय हिंद।
Thank you very much indeed, Honorable Dr. Bhishmanarayan Singh, for a most wonderful opening address. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very young and very dynamic General Secretary of the NRI Welfare Society of India. He's also the Chief Editor of Indian Observer. He's a member of the Press Council of India. He's also a member of the Wage Board for Journalists and Non-Journalists. I think every single media event he is always present. He's also accompanying the Honourable Prime Minister on various media delegations to international countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the General Secretary of the NRI Welfare Society of India, Mr. Gurinder Singh.
Honourable Shri Kapil Sibal, Minister for Human Resource Development, Honourable Dr. Bhishmanarayan Singh, President and former Governor, Honourable Justice Markandey Katju, Chairman, Press Council of India, Shri Dalbir Singh, Secretary, AICC, Shri Ansari, Member, Backward Classes, and Mr. E. Shanda, our International Vice President from Botswana. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm welcome to you all who have come from various parts of the world to be a part of this Congress in the land of your ancestors. I feel deeply honored to address such a distinguished and accomplished audience. I feel truly proud that in this hall we find today the entire world represented. This gathering of ladies and gentlemen truly symbolizes the ancient Indian learning for Vasudevaya Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. We are one family, the whole world belongs to us. That is why I've always said, while the sun has set on all the big empires of the world, the sun will never set on the Indian diaspora. From Fiji in the east to Los Angeles in the west, from Cape Town in the south to Toronto in the north, the people of Indian origin are the world's most globalized community. We speak different languages, we practice different religions. Our cuisine is varied, and so is our costume. We are over 1 billion Indians and over 2 million overseas Indians living in 130 countries. Yet, there's a unifying idea that binds us all together, which is the idea of Indianness. This International Congress is a celebration of the global Indian. It is also the celebration of the homecoming of the global Indian. It was in January when the greatest non-resident Indian, Mahatma Gandhi, returned from South Africa. This is why we meet here in January. You have all successfully joined the mainstreams in the countries in which you live and work, but have yet retained your cultural identity and your bond with the home country. With the efforts of all of us, India has emerged in the front line of the whole world. It is not only the efforts of the industrious people residing in this country, but also the support and dedication of all of you, India's sons and daughters, that has enabled us to grow faster. To set the record straight, NRI Welfare Society, being a pioneer one, has been fighting for your just causes for the last couple of decades, when none in the country thought of or cared for the non-resident Indians. Thanks to the visionary Sardar Harbhajan Singh Ji, who started the society long back, that has come to stay as a leader. The NRI Welfare Society has organized several successful symposia on specific issues from time to time at the national and international level. The best part being our joint efforts bearing fruit, with the result the Government of India creating an altogether new Ministry of the Indian Overseas Affairs being headed by a veteran, Shri Vailavar Ravi. With the millions of people of Indian origin living outside India, a new global community has emerged. Most people of Indian origin have been exceedingly successful in a range of businesses and professions. If their professional expertise and financial resources could be pooled, the historic project of globalization will become complete in the truest sense when more and more brothers join this mainstream as important investing partners to our globalization process. Ours is not just a 6-day annual event, but an opportunity of lifetime to invest in a vibrant country, your own motherland, which has stood the test of time, all the more so at the time when one sees a worldwide meltdown. The world is passing through a difficult phase. Many of you are experiencing firsthand the impact of the global economic meltdown. Employment opportunities have declined. There is greater protectionism, and attitudes towards migration have also hardened. There is growing social intolerance even in more open societies. I must say, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that India has come out unscratched despite the global turbulence sweeping across the world. Our ace economists are surely on the top, headed by Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and Montek Singh Ahluwalia. The Prime Minister recently said, "Our country is also going through difficult times. Nonetheless, our economic fundamentals are strong and our constitutional processes are robust. We are up to the task of meeting these challenges we face as a nation. However, we hope to bring back the rhythm of our growth process to sustain an annual growth of 9 to 10% in the medium term. The efforts to battle inflation are producing results, and there has been an improvement in the situation. We wish to accelerate the efforts to effectively address the key constraints in the area of infrastructure, agriculture, health, and education. These are the key priorities for the government. We see the active involvement of the overseas Indian communities in increasing the pace of our economic and social development. In this context, it is important that we make effort to connect the second generation of overseas Indians with their ancestral heritage and involve them actively in India's march forward. About 40% of remittances of over $70 billion come from skilled and semi-skilled overseas Indian workers. The security of our overseas workers and students is a top priority of the government. Many of them have been affected adversely by the economic crisis. We are acutely conscious of the safety and security of Indians living abroad, particularly in regions characterized by instability. There are over 6 million Indians living in the Gulf and West Asia. We need to be alert to the unfolding developments in this part of the world. We have conveyed to the countries of the region that we have a stake in the peace and stability of this region, and that we expect that they would appropriately look after the interests of Indian communities in their countries. Following the upheaval in Libya last year, the government undertook Operation Safe Homecoming to evacuate more than 16,000 people from the strife-torn areas through special flights, passengers, and naval vessels. Similar evacuations were carried out in Egypt and Yemen on a lower scale. We stand ready to extend such help elsewhere should the need arise. The global Indians have brought about a revolution. Indians have done wonders overseas in almost all professions. The overall trend for India is very positive. That despite the crisis in major developed economies, remittance flow to India is increasing. There's an increase in flow of remittance to India from all major sources. There's a good increase from Gulf, East Asia, and Pacific countries. In 2011, the remittances flow to India was $55 billion, whereas China received $51 billion, the highest for any country from its diaspora in 2011. Our Prime Minister recognizes the legitimate desire of Indians of living abroad to exercise their franchise to have a say in who governs India. And he sincerely hopes that all of you will get a chance by the time of the next general elections. In fact, he went a step further and asked why more overseas Indians do not return home to join politics and public life, as they are increasingly doing in business and academia. India is today one of the top investment destinations. Economic opportunities are expanding everywhere. The government is taking all necessary steps to get the diaspora closer. In the coming days' events, we will be certainly discussing the agendas which the government has proposed for the diaspora. I'm also happy to inform you that the government has decided to introduce and sponsor a new pension and life insurance fund for Indian overseas. The scheme will encourage, enable and assist overseas workers to voluntarily save for their return and resettlement and old age. Overseas Indians are recognized globally as a knowledge diaspora. Your skills and expertise will be the vital inputs for India's progress and inclusive growth. I proudly inform you that amidst us today are high-profile doctors who are an institution in their own capacity. There's hardly any country in the world where Indian doctors are not working. We want to coordinate their efforts to make it more beneficial to India by identifying their areas of interest and matching it with the needs of the country. Around 300,000 doctors of Indian origin who are working abroad recently announced that they are willing to help the Indian government in a variety of ways, including voluntary work. A Google search for Indian doctor yields 35.7 million results in 0.1 seconds. The Indian doctor today stands tall. It's time for them to influence not only the health of individuals and communities, but also the global health. For the global Indian, the future is very bright. He is the future architect of the globalized village called Earth. We in India speak in different languages and follow different faiths, but Indian culture has a tradition of assimilating and accommodating diverse traditions, customs, beliefs, and people. That is what makes Indian society, Indian civilization endure and flourish. The global Indian Global Indian is a symbol of this diversity of our ancient land. Your individual prosperity and personal achievements are a symbol of what diverse people like us can achieve. Before I conclude, I must say, many of your forefathers were forcibly taken away from India as laborers. Some migrated in distress. Yet today, the people of Indian origin are welcomed around the world for the values they represent. Values of hard work, values of excellence and enterprise, and respect for their communities, their families, and their neighbors. In the lifetime of our children, we would want them to see the India of our and their dreams, an India that lives up to the expectations of those who struggle to make it free and those who toil to take it forward, and an India that wishes to live in peace as it seeks prosperity for all. Each of you will be our ambassador in this great task. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Gurinder Singh, for your address, General Secretary of the NRI Welfare Society of India. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor is Justice Markandey Katju. He is the Chairman of the Press Council of India, formerly a judge of the Supreme Court of India. Justice Katju was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court of India in April 2006. He retired from this position in September 2001 after serving the Indian judiciary for 20 years. His courtroom was one of the fastest in India, disposing of 100+ matters in a week. Justice Katju is variously described as brilliant, bold, one of the best, and maverick in his time. A strong belief in judicial restraint, he's been contrasted with some unconventional opinions he delivered. The contradiction may be partly explained in his own words. A judge should restrain from challenging policy decisions in economic matters by the government, though being an activist in cases of personal liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely a great honor and privilege to present to you Honorable Guest of Honor, Justice Markandey Katju, Chairman of the Press Council of India.
Hon'ble Mr. Kapil Sibal, Union Minister for Human Resource Development, other dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries of the dais, friends. It is a great honor for me to be invited to speak here today. Before independence and for some time thereafter, India was looked down upon as a country of sadhus, snake charmers, and backward people. However, over the last few decades, thanks mainly to the technical prowess and the IT-driven entrepreneurship of Indians, spearheaded from the US Silicon Valley and elsewhere, India and Indians now enjoy respect globally. We Indians are proud of you NRIs. You have all done the country proud. The reason for this recognition was because you NRIs invested heavily in education and scientific knowledge and went on to study and graduate from the best universities and scientific institutes all over the world and demonstrated your high intellectual capabilities. It is this focus on education and scientific knowledge which is heavily required here in India to build our country. And that is why Mr. Kapil Sibal has been specially invited here as the Minister for Human Resource Development, because that is the field which will take our country forward. India needs technologies in many areas to impact hundreds of millions of our people. Areas such as healthcare, clean and potable water, energy, agriculture, including post-harvesting infrastructure, transportation, education, etc. India has massive problems, and the solution to these problems is massive application of science and technology in every nook and corner of the country. We need your help in this connection. I have had the opportunity to visit many overseas destinations and want to share a gist of my assessment about the additional steps that, in my view, should be considered to accelerate the development of NRI relations with the mother country, India. Some of these are: 1. With a diaspora of over 25 million NRIs spread all over the world, it is now necessary to structure our rules, regulations and administrative programs for specific regions. Apart from their love of India, there is not much in common between NRIs in A. America, Europe and Australia, B. the Gulf and Middle East, and C. Southeast Asia. Our promotional activity, passports and visa administration and effective strategic plans should be developed separately for each of these regions so that NRI investments, cultural relations and promotional programs are made more meaningful and effective. We have to understand that the NRIs in the Western region, such as North America, Europe and Australia, where most of our NRIs have settled and acquired citizenships, are there for the long term and are not likely to return to India except for short visits. On the other hand, the NRIs in the Gulf and Middle East and Far East have gone for employment or business on a short-term basis and are more likely to move back to India as soon as practicable for them. In the Western countries, I believe, our policies must be to enhance emotional attachment, particularly for the second and third generations of persons of Indian origin. See, the first generation people have emotional attachment, but we have to do it for the second and third generation also. This should include organizing language and cultural programs, promoting Indian history and all related areas, including visits to India, where they can feel proud of being of Indian descent. 2. Many NRIs are unhappy with the performance of the Indian embassies and the missions in the cultural and promotional fields. And I request the Honourable Minister to note now what I am going to say. They feel that, the NRIs, they feel that Indian officials are shy of using the local national media and TVs for promoting India. Compared to other countries such as China, they tend to confine themselves to the affluent Indian community for socializing, having cocktail party. I'm not talking of all diplomats, but a large number of Indian diplomats in foreign countries, with due respect, they socialize with the affluent people and have cocktail party. But what is the return to their country? A huge amount of money is being spent on their salaries in foreign currency and the buildings which they occupy and all that. What is the return to India? Because that money is being paid by us, the Indian taxpayer. They tend to confine themselves to the affluent Indian community for socializing, having cocktail parties. These foreign embassy officials. I am sorry to say, but this is, many people have told me this, Mr. Minister, please note this. They feel very sad that our foreign embassy officials, they are not doing their job properly, they are just having a jolly good time, having a jolly good job and having a jolly good salary. What is the return to their country? They have to broad-base these endeavors and try to make an impact for India on the lines of the Chinese, for instance. Chinese foreign service officials are going to universities, they are going to the Chamber of Commerce promoting China. Why are our foreign embassy people not doing it instead of just attending cocktail parties? And why are they not helping NRIs in visa and other matters to simplify them, to help them rather than create problems for NRIs in getting visa and all? They should visit schools and universities, chambers of commerce and other public bodies and address them and promote India, the image of India. This is what our foreign embassy officials should be doing. Some may be doing, but a large section, I am sorry to say, are not doing this. And this is very sad. The Indian officials in the overseas missions must change their attitude as typical bureaucrats to that of facilitators and sympathizers to the NRIs. They must have sympathy to NRIs instead of creating problems in visa and this and that. I would suggest, and the Honourable Minister may note, I would suggest setting up an independent agency by the Government of India which can be made responsible for evaluating and rating all aspects of our overseas missions. Those who do well should be rewarded and those who do not do their duty should be punished. India spends enormous resources on Indian embassies and missions, and the time has come to make these diplomats accountable for their performance. Otherwise, it is a waste of huge amount of money which a poor country like India can ill afford. This is a high time now that this must be done. Many of these foreign embassy officials I see having a jolly good time, socializing, cocktails. But what is the output? What is the gain to India? What is India benefiting? 3. I have met many NRIs, particularly in North America, who are anxious to contribute to charity in India, but they do not know how to go about it. There are numerous agencies, NGOs, etc., which can be located on the internet, but in most cases there is no authentication. Are these genuine bodies or they are just out to make money? Many foreigners, they want to donate to charity, but to whom? Who are the genuine people? I would suggest that government or its agencies consider setting up independent agencies for accessing the charitable organizations in the country and rating them suitably so that any misgivings about their credibility are dispelled and the NRIs have authenticated charities in which they can invest. Thank you.
So we are now going to have the award presentation ceremony. For that, I request our Honourable Chief Guest, Mr. Kapil Sibal, Chairman of the Press Council of India, Justice Markandey Katju, and Dr. Bishwanarayan Singh to present today's awards, please. Kindly come up from the steps on my left, receive your award, and leave from my steps on my right, please. Lifetime Achievement Award goes to Pranab Chandra Lahiri from Germany. The Sword of Honor, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Dr. Rama Mohanna Roy V. Balan from United States of America. The Sword of Honor, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Dr. Ajit K. Nagpal from Dubai. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Sword of Honor, which goes to Miss Utpala Dubey from United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sword of Honor goes to Sheikh Mahmoud Hassan from United Arab Emirates. The Navratna Award, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Ish Handa, International Vice President of the NRI Welfare Society of India from Botswana. The Navratna Award goes to Dr. Rita Kumar from United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the Navratna Award now will go to Dr. Aruna Balan from United States of America. The Navratna Award goes to Dr. Syed M.H. Abedi from United Kingdom. The Navratna Award, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Dr. Viraya C. Perny from United States of America. The Navratna Award goes to Dr. Avinash Bapat from United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the Navratna Award will now be presented to Dr. Saroj Vardhan Raj from United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, goes to Dr. Chakri Varlagada from United States of America. The Navratna Award goes to Dr. Siddhartha Dasgupta. Please keep the applause going as he comes to the stage. The Pravasi Achiever Gold Medal goes to Dr. Hemlata Parmar from United States of America. The Navratna Award goes to Dr. Chakri Varlagada from United States of America. And the Global Achiever Gold Medal, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Aishwarya Rathi. Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Chief Guest, for presenting today's awards. And may I seek your kind indulgence in requesting our Honourable Chief Guest to kindly give his inaugural address on this occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Honourable Union Minister for Human Resource Development, Mr. Kapil Sibal.
Thank you very much. Justice Markandey Katju, Chairman of the Press Council of India, ex-Governor Bhisham Singh, Gurinder Singh, Sari Chahab, Chairman of the National Commission for Backward Classes, Ish Handa, Major Dalbir Singh, Tom Vadakan, distinguished NRIs, gathered here this evening, distinguished awardees, my friends in the media, ladies and gentlemen. "25 million people of Indian origin living outside of the territorial boundaries of India is more than the combined population of the Scandinavian countries. That's the enormity of the footprint of NRIs beyond the territorial boundaries of India. And therefore, they are an enormous resource for this great country, and have over the years, wherever they have gone, contributed enormously to India in one way or another. The other day, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago visited us, and she happens to be an Indian from Bihar. तभी भीषण नारायण सिंह जी आप यहाँ हैं, बिहार हमेशा आगे रहता है, थोड़ा थोड़ा पिछड़ा भी रहता है. So she was mentioning, she said, when we went to Trinidad or Tobago, when their ancestors went to Trinidad and Tobago, they were indentured labor. They didn't go for high-flying degrees after passing out from the IIT and joining some very prestigious institution in the United States of America. They went there as indentured labor. And over the years, contributed to the growth of Trinidad and Tobago and to the West Indies, and participated in their history, became a part of that country, and this lady is now the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And she was mentioning to me, she said, we need enormous investment in agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago because most of our people do not want to work in agriculture anymore. Because when they went as indentured labor, they used to be out in their fields doing agricultural work for the colonial power. And they said, therefore, they don't want to have anything to do with agriculture, and they want India to help them out in investing in agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. The reason why I tell you this story is that all diaspora cannot be perceived as one common entity which has had a common experience. If you go to the Middle East, for example, most of the economy of the Middle East is because of the immigration of Indians there, but they are not people who hold very high positions. They are skilled or semi-skilled labor, which is participating in the construction industry there and work in some relatively menial jobs, but go there for economic opportunities. A large part of our diaspora went abroad because of economic opportunities, because India could not provide the economic opportunities that were available outside. Some of our doctors, some of our engineers, some of our IT professionals, some of our business management people. And as I see that most of the awards that are won today are from people from the United States of America. Now it's a different story from Trinidad and Tobago, because those who went to the United States of America went there as highly qualified individuals, because at that point in time in the IITs you could only get a B.Tech degree, and the master's program, the M.Tech program, was almost non-existent because IITs were meant to be undergraduate institutions, and somebody who wanted to do a postdoctoral thesis or wanted to do a doctorate had to actually go outside of the country because there was no IIT-like institution in India. And therefore they sought admission in Stanford or Michigan or UCLA or whatever, and then they made good there, and they were picked up by big business corporations. Many of them went to the Silicon Valley, made a lot of money, and contributed to the economy of the United States of America. But that's a different story from the indentured labor in Trinidad and Tobago. And I dare say if you go to Mauritius, the story will be relatively different. If you go to Sri Lanka, the story is entirely different. So I must say that and that's the diversity of India. And that's the diversity of our diaspora as well. And therefore we must celebrate that diversity. But despite the fact that you all go outside and you embrace the country where you are presently residing, some of you become citizens, some of you have not become citizens, you're persons of Indian origin. But somewhere down the road, a bit of your heart remains in India. And that's what pulls you back. I mean, why are you a success outside? And why is the economy, American economy, under great distress today? Because by and large, the American society or Western societies live beyond their means. All of them live beyond their means. Because everything based on borrowed capital. You go to a bank and you get a loan for anything. You have a mortgage on your house and you call it your own. You pay only 10% of the money for the mortgage, but it's your home. 90% of it belongs to the bank. But that's the way the American economy functions. You borrow and you, using somebody else's money, you move on. Well, the Indians have a very wonderful habit of not borrowing. By and large, you'll always see an Indian live within his means. He'd never want to be indebted to anybody. This is why the savings rate of the Indian economy today is 37%. One of the highest in the world. And that's the reason why you get remittances to the extent of $55 billion, because they don't go out and waste money. They use capital for building, for generating more capital, for generating revenue, to ultimately benefit not just their family, but their extended family as well. And that's why a large section of our diaspora is exceptionally prosperous and is doing exceptionally well, and we're very proud of them. Now, but of course, the world has changed. From the time that many of you went to the United States or Great Britain or the Middle East or anywhere else, the world has completely changed. The 21st century is a new century. The nature of the challenge is different. The nature of opportunities are different. But the one thing that I always find is the fashion of India bashing. India bashing is a big fashion wherever we go. And it's taken forward by Justice Markandey Katju today. Because people love bashing India. Because that's a way of actually you're angry with why is India not reaching forward? Why is India not progressing as fast as the home in which I live? India should be progressing as much. The rules in India should be like the United States of America, right? The banks should offer us money immediately, right? And therefore, if the banks don't offer, you start India bashing. And I think that the time has come for you to realize that India is a highly complex country. 800 million people in this country live in $2 a day. You have, of course, 400 million middle class in this country, which is doing exceptionally well. And sir, all the diplomats you were talking about must be going to their cocktail parties, because all of them are very rich people sitting in this hall. So they must be enjoying their cocktail parties. But I dare say that the diplomats that I have met, and I must now stand up for the diplomats, the diplomats that I have met have done human service. The other day, sir, there was an incident in California about a university which was not an accredited university and had to close down, and all the children were left on the street. Now, a lot of those children belonged to the United States of America. Very few of them were coming from India. But our diplomats didn't even know their addresses. They put out advertisements. They tried to contact people there. They tried to contact all the children who had lost their admission in the university, even though they did not know where they were. And 80% of them could be contacted by the efforts of the university alone and offered enormous help. If I go to many parts in Europe, the nature of the giving of passports is become electronic now. A lot of this is outsourced. It used to take days, weeks to get a passport renewed. The whole system is changing because we are evolving as a nation. The problem in our country is that everybody who looks at us thinks that we should have done in 63 years what other countries have taken 250 years to do. We are a young democracy. We are saddled with enormous complex problems, those of poverty, those of water, that of sanitation. You go to my constituency in Chandni Chowk, which is my constituency, and look at the plight of people there. We need to use our resources to be able to improve the lives of ordinary people in this country. There are people who don't have electricity. There are people who don't have sanitation. There are people who don't have schools to go to. I mean, just talking about education, we passed the Right to Education Act in April. On April 1, 2010, it became effective. We passed it in 2009. And there are 220 million children who go to school in this country, which is 2/3 of the population of the United States of America. Just the children of this country are 220 million who go to school. Many of those children, 56% of those children who get enrolled in school drop out by the time they go to middle school. And another 27% drop out by the time they go to secondary school. Now, we passed the Right to Education Act. And the resources required, and this Right to Education Act applies to children between the ages of 6 to 14, which means till elementary school. And the resources required to implement the Right to Education Act, set apart under the budget, is 231,000 crores. 231,000 crores for a 5-year period. Now you can understand the enormity of the challenge. And yet, despite all this, the gross enrollment ratio, that means the number of children going to college in the age group of 18 to 24 in India, is 16%. That means every 100 children in India in the age group of 18 to 24, only 16 reach college. 16. If you compare it with the developed world, the minimum number who reach college are not less than 50 out of every 100 in that age group. That's the difference between the developed world and the developing world. Now we need to improve that gross enrollment ratio. And we hope by 2020 that gross enrollment ratio will become 30%, which means out of every 100 children in the age group of 18 to 24, 30 will reach college instead of 16 today. But 16 are served, Vishwanarayanji, not by 500 but 604 universities. Not by 20,000 colleges but by 31,000 colleges. There are only 16 million children who go to college today. Once we increase the gross enrollment ratio to 30%, the number of children going to college would be 45 million. So just look at the numbers. If 16 million are served by 604 universities, another 30 million will have to be served. We'll need 1,000 more universities in the next 10 years. If 16 million are served by 31,000 colleges, and we have that population of 45 million going to college, we'll need another 50,000 colleges. Just to ensure that the gross enrollment ratio becomes 30. Who's going to give us that money? Where are you going to get that from? Unless we open our economy, invite foreign investment, allow NRIs to invest not just in other sectors but in the education sector, allow them to set up universities, have foreign collaborations with top universities. Just yesterday, I had lunch with Drew Faust, who is the president of Harvard University. They are collaborating with several institutions in Mumbai now. The president of Yale Law School was here the other day, and we have a program with him. Many of our Indians are, in fact, deans in topmost universities in the United States of America. And Newt Gingrich, one in South Carolina, in a state where an Indian is the governor. So Indians are placed in very sound positions, very powerful positions around the world. And it's time for them to realize that India is confronted with huge challenges and has huge opportunities available. And unless the entire diaspora, along with us, works with us to be able to meet those challenges and help us and use those situations for the opportunities that are available, I think that we would have done great service for our nation. And I'm sure that the Indian diaspora is ever ready to do that. But they can only do that if they understand India. They understand the complexity of India. They understand the enormous challenges of India. India is not like New York City or Washington or some city in Europe. We are yet to build our cities. I said the other day that Europe has built its cities, and remember, there is the desire of foreign capital to come to India not because of charity. It's because of the fact that there are not enough opportunities in Europe and the United States of America. If you look at the economy of the United States of America, which is debt-ridden today, Americans are very skilled people. They have the skills, but there are no jobs available. And in India, we have the jobs, and there are no skills available. Why are American companies coming to India? There are, at this point in time, as I talk, 1,000 research institutions which have set up office in India. 1,000 research institutions. And so there are 100,000 engineers of Indian origin from India working in those 1,000 research institutions, building wealth for American corporations. But we need to build wealth for India, for our own country. And that can only be done if we set up institutions of our own, understand the needs of our economy, have an empathetic view of the complexity of India, reach out to the enormous opportunities that India provides, and work with Indians to take India forward. And I have absolutely no doubt that all of you sitting here would be more than happy to do that. What we have to do for you is to provide the appropriate environment for you to be able to do that. Because I was myself working in the United States of America for several years. And I came back in 1980 at a time when nobody used to come back to India. And I practiced as a lawyer in Wall Street. And when I came back, why did I come back? Because I knew that in the ultimate analysis, I have to be here to do something for my people. And those of you who haven't come back for reasons which are personal and which are justified, I'm sure all of you also have the same objective in mind, to do something for your people, especially first-generation Indians. And most of you are first-generation Indians sitting in this hall. And as Justice Markandey said, and others said, that your generations who will be then distanced from Indian culture, if you come here often enough and get them acquainted with Indian culture and Indian tradition,